Hello and welcome into NJCAA All Access. Today is Thursday, February 8th. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Zach McKinstry.
And I'm Alexa Wesselman. Before we get started with today's show, we wanted to take a moment and offer our condolences to the Mike Martin family. It was announced last week that Mike Martin had passed, and in case you didn't know, he has very strong NJCAA ties. He played basketball at Wingate when they were still a junior college. He coached basketball at Tallahassee Community College before taking over the head coaching position at Florida State in the baseball department and becoming the winningest NCAA coach in history. I went to Florida State. I was able to spend some time with him. He was a fantastic person and a really great story of where junior college can take you.
Yeah, definitely a legend of the game at the JUCO level and at the four-year school level. So we honor him with today's show. We also want to honor all girls and women in sport. Yesterday was National Girls and Women's in Sports Day, and we got a great interview coming up with Megan McMurray, one of our NJCAA alumna from Nassau Community College, so be sure to tune in for that one. But we start today's episode, as we always do, with our NJCAA basketball scoreboard. First in D1 men's basketball, we start with a primetime matchup of the number 11 Wranglers and number 1 South Plains. It's back-to-back weeks where games went down to the wire in Odessa. It's a 6-point game here. The Texans in front with 2 minutes to go. Wranglers get a second chance on the miss, and Willie Lightfoot cashes on a tough three to cut it to one possession. Other side of the floor, it's Jamari Hill who backs into the paint, then finds a way to spin and scoop his way to the bucket for two. Odessa would respond with Lightfoot again, this time from way deep. Standing by the coach's area, the sophomore hits his heat check and trims the lead again. Down to 30 seconds. Lead back up to 4. Lightfoot is fouled on the triple and will shoot 3 at the stripe. And when you look closer, you can see that contact on the elbow. He hits all 3 of them, and it's 66-67 with 20 seconds left. On the inbound, Jabori McGee is trapped in the corner and can't keep his pivot foot. Texans turn it over, and the Wranglers could win it. They look to Lightfoot to seal it, but this time the shot falls short. And after the foul and free throws on the other end, Odessa couldn't capitalize at the horn and falls just short of upsetting the undefeated number 1 as South Plains moves to 21-0. 2 top 10 teams did fall this week, though, as unranked Kilgore beat number 8 Trinity Valley by 16, and unranked Belen beat number 9 Lee by 20. The notable ranked matchup on the women's side was number 16 Pensacola State, who gave Gulf Coast State one of their best tests of the year, but the Commodores prevailed 69-59. And some more ranked squads knocked off. The number 8 Trinity Valley women's team also fell to Kilgore, and number 9 Eastern Arizona lost back-to-back games to Cochise, including a 58-56 thriller. We were close to the shock of the season in D2 men's hoops as number 1 National Park squeaked by unranked South Arkansas at the buzzer. This game was a lot of fun to watch. With 90 seconds left, Keyshawn Brown drills a corner 3 and makes it a 64-65 game. Ensuing possession, errant pass gives it back to the Stars, and the home fans are loving the unranked underdogs who have the chance to take the lead. Less than a minute. How about this hop, step, and pivot from Braden Edison, which puts South Arkansas in front late. A nasty move which made it 66-65, but that lead didn't last long. The big man, Nicavian White, weaving his way to the rack and getting the lead right back for the Nighthawks. Under 30 seconds now, South Ark trailing again, and a lot of contact on the left-hand runner. No call and no basket, so NPC gets it back. They go 1 for 2 at the line, so the Stars have one final effort to force OT or go for the win, and they attempt the latter. Baseline pass to the corner, great help defense, scrambling 3-ball from the top of the arc won't go, and neither will the putback. National Park hangs on in a good one, 68-66. And number 17, Iowa Lakes, went on a tear, knocking off a couple of ranked opponents, including number 3 Des Moines area, 85-74. Lots of action in D2 women's. Number 9 Harcum will climb the rankings after upsetting number 5 CCBC Essex by 12. And Lakeland had a tough week, losing a pair of ranked contests to Lincolnland and Parkland. On to D3. Rochester CTC men's squad upsets number 7 Riverland to undoubtedly make an appearance in the new rankings. Number 9 Dutchess CC fell to Borough of Manhattan. And one big ranked D3 women's contest to close out. Number 4 Minnesota West CTC wins big over number 3 Anoka Ramsey. Certainly another event-filled weekend with more to come this week and beyond. Alexa?
As we get into the games that we're going to be watching over the next week, we've got 4 really good basketball games. So let's start with D1 men's as always. Number 8 Panola versus number 13 Trinity Valley. Panola is on a hefty win streak. Their last loss was December 29th. Trinity Valley is looking to gain back a little ground. They've suffered a few losses and have therefore dropped in the rankings, but this is a good chance for them to get back on track. In D1 women's basketball, number 1 Gulf Coast facing number 3 Northwest Florida State. This is a big rematch. In case you forgot already, almost 2 weeks ago, Gulf Coast beat the undefeated reigning champions, Northwest Florida State, and Gulf Coast took over the number 1 ranking. It is very hard to beat a team twice. So if Northwest Florida can get a revenge win, it would change a lot of the landscape as we get closer and closer to Casper. In D2 women's basketball, number 2 Iowa Western versus number 4 Kirkwood. Iowa Western only has 1 loss all the way back in November. McKenna Minter is really standing out for the Reavers. Her triple-double over the weekend extended their win streak. Kirkwood is equally playing well. Their game against Southeastern, the offense shot 68.5%. This game is not one you want to miss. Keeping in D2 women's basketball, number 6 Harcum versus number 8 Union College. These teams have already played on December 14th, and Union County walked away with the win by 13 points. Harcum is obviously looking to get the W on this one this time around. There are a lot of other really good games going across the NJCAA, but those are just the big ones that we're going to be watching amongst the ranked teams. We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us.
Intensity fuels these champion student athletes to greatness. Zurich Insurance is proud to be the official provider of student athlete insurance for the National Junior College Athletic Association. Throughout the highs, we cheer along to their screams of victory. Throughout the lows, we support them through their tears of defeat. Zurich Insurance, helping student athletes play the sport they love.
I have a little birthday message for you from someone too.
I heard you really love basketball. You're a good shooter and a good dribbler. Happy birthday, MJ, and I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Welcome back to NJCAA All Access. By now, you know we love telling stories of current and former junior college athletes doing fantastic things, and today's JUCO Game Changers is no exception. Megan McMurray played volleyball at Nassau, and now she works for ESPN and recently won an Emmy. Zach had the chance to talk with her recently.
Well, what a better way to kick off our National Girls and Women's in Sports Day coverage than with Megan McMurray, Nassau Community College volleyball alumna and a recent Emmy Award-winning associate producer at ESPN. So, Megan, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, let's start with going into sports producing. Was it always the goal to go into sports producing, or was it something that you kind of stumbled upon on your career path?
So I knew I wanted to do sports journalism ever since my sophomore year of high school. I fell in love with sports writing. I was a huge sports fan. I literally fell asleep to SportsCenter every night. My dad always joked, like, turn your TV off, SportsCenter's on. And I'm like, no, I gotta sleep to it. But I joined my high school newspaper and the rest is history. I went with a field hockey team. I covered a playoff game and then I was hooked. And then I originally wanted to be on air, and then I quickly discovered being from New York, you had to move to a small town, small market. I didn't really want to do that, moved too far away from my family. So I learned about the ESPN production assistant program my junior year of college. And I applied my last semester of school, December of 2015. got an interview a month later. Then 2 weeks after that interview, I found myself moving up to Bristol, Connecticut, and here I am almost 8 years later now, an associate producer.
There you go. The rest is history. Let's go back to those JUCO days. What went into the decision to attend Nassau, and what was your NJCAA experience like?
I guess I have a unique experience going to JUCO because I knew what I wanted to major in going into school, but I also knew I wanted to play volleyball. Didn't have that many offers. I met Coach Christine Abrams, I think like towards the middle of my senior year, and I had known a girl that was playing there through coaching, the same club I played for. So she told me about it, and she said they were really competitive and they were good, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I just go there, save money along the way, and still get to play volleyball, which I don't think I would have played volleyball if I went anywhere else. So I loved my experience at Nassau. I was in the honors program. I was involved in the newspaper. I was involved in TV production. I kind of did everything all while having a part-time job and saving money. But truly loved my experience playing volleyball there. Like my coach, I still talk to her on the regular. We talk about sports. We talk about my career. We talk about the UFC all the time. She has us come back every summer for an alumni game, which is really fun. And now I'm like one of the oldies, which is funny, and we always beat the young players. So she's built a really great community there, and I really couldn't have had a better first 2 years of college.
That's awesome. What kind of things did you learn at Nassau that you still carry with you into ESPN today?
I think one of the biggest things that Coach Abrams instilled in me, and I think she instilled in all of her players, is like hard work, which is kind of obvious when you're an athlete, but it's literally something she said every day, and she just pushed us past our limits. And I think one of the things I learned playing college volleyball was that in high school, yes, you're managing school, you're managing volleyball, but we had 2 days over the summer and then classes were starting, so I really had to learn how to manage my time while also being extremely tired from the first morning practice and then going to class and then coming back to practice. So it's kind of just like pushing your body and your mind past the limits that you thought you couldn't go past, but it's just pushing through and working hard and getting to that ultimate goal of winning, which we did win a lot.
Well, let's fast forward. You go to St. John's, you graduate, go to ESPN. As you mentioned, you spent 8 years there, and the culmination of all that hard work was the Sports Emmy for SportsCenter a couple of months ago. What kind of pride do you take in winning that award?
It was really surreal to win. To win the award, it was announced in the spring, and then there were a bunch of people that got it, so it took a while to get all the trophies to Bristol. But like picking up that award was so surreal because I am one of hundreds of people that contribute to SportsCenter over the last year that was like eligible to win. But SportsCenter was one of the first shows I got to work on ESPN. So when I was going to pick it up, I was like just reminiscing on the first highlight I cut when I was working on SportsCenter at night, like the friends I made in that room that I'm still friends with to this day. And just, it was the culmination of all the hard work, the late nights, the long hours, the long weeks. And it's sitting on my kitchen counter, and I get to look at it every day, and I'm just like, damn, like I did that. So it's really cool.
Yeah, shiny trophy to put in the trophy case as well. Last question I had for you. As I mentioned, today's National Girls and Women's in Sports Day, and there are plenty of NJCAA female student athletes right now that are looking to go into a career in sports. What message would you give to them about advice in the field?
I would just say, if you know what you want, go after it, and don't be afraid if you get a no at first. Within my career at ESPN, I've kind of navigated and put myself in a position where I'm now getting to work on women's sports. I'm currently working on women's college game day and the women's basketball tournament, which is blowing up, which is awesome. But it wasn't like my first assignment, and I didn't know going into ESPN that I wanted to do that. So I would say, if you know what you want, go after it. But if you don't know what you want, you can learn new things along the way. And once you figure out what you want, vocalize that, because there's a lot of people, whether in your field that you're trying to get to or within the job that you're currently at, that maybe don't know what you want, they can't read your mind. So I just say vocalize what you want and just go after it, and put the hard work that you put in on the court or on the field or whatever sport you played, like put the hard work that you put into that into your career, and you will go very far.
Well, Megan, thanks again for joining us. We'll have to tune into one of those Nassau alumni volleyball games, see you ball out. But thanks again, and congratulations on all the success thus far.
Yes, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks again to Megan, and congratulations on all the success thus far. Let's move from a former NJCAA volleyball player to the current NJCAA softball stars of today. As we move into softball season, let's take a preview of some of the top teams as the season continues. Much of the same in this year's preseason top 5, with all of these squads making it to Alabama last season. But let's start by looking at the 3-time defending national champions, the Florida Southwestern Buccaneers. The Bucs have been top dogs for some time now, adding a 54-win campaign last year and another national title. They've added 3-time NJCAA All-American and recent grad Feline Pote to the coaching staff, and they return a ton of talent, including All-American Sydney McCray, who hit .410 at the plate in 2023, along with 26 stolen bags and a .571 slugging percentage. No surprise that Florida Southwestern still leads the pack, and look for head coach Robert E. Morey to lead his team back to the World Series in season number 9. Next is last year's runner-up and a rival of the Bucs in the FCSAA, Northwest Florida. Another really talented team out of Region 8. The Raiders came up just short in the 2023 title game, but returned 6 key players this year, headlined by Given Hammonds. She had the second best average on their second place team, hitting .421 and tallying 39 stolen bags. The Raiders added a couple of key transfers as well, including Southeastern Louisiana's Michaela Ferguson and Britt Burgoyne, who looked to lead the way this season. And last but not least, the Odessa College Wranglers. It was a busy offseason for last year's third-place squad, who lost their coach to Division I Stephen F. Austin. Odessa hired Doug Eastman to take over, who had tons of success at Yavapai College, racking up 333 wins. The Wranglers returned 6 sophomores, including pitcher Avery Truce, who was a perfect 4-0 in 21 appearances last year. So excited to see how those teams turn out, and excited to find out which teams will be making it to Alabama in May. All right, we're going to step aside for a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We've got rankings and JUCO gyms when we come back.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
Welcome back to NJCAA All Access. We're going to get into this week's rankings, and the theme of the week is changes, because there are a lot of them. We start with D1 men's. South Plains still holding on that number 1 ranked spot. Northwest Florida State falling just outside the top 5 to 7th. But look at Triton jumping all the way up to 6th, Panola going to 8th, Salt Lake coming in at 11th, Lee and Trinity Valley falling to 12th and 13th. Eastern Florida State and Hutchinson moving up into 14th and 15th, and Chipola taking a big fall to 19th. D2 men's basketball, National Park and Davidson-Davie remain 1 and 2, but they're pretty much the only schools that don't change this week. South Suburban moves into 3rd, Des Moines area falls to 5th, Ellsworth down to 9th, Chandler Gilbert up to 10th, Iowa Lakes up to 11th, Johnson County up to 12th, Lakeland falls to 13th, Waubonsie goes down to 16th, and Monroe CC falls to 17th. In D3 men's basketball, Brookdale still leading the way, and the top 5 don't change. Dallas Richland sliding into 7th, Fulton Montgomery making moves up to 10th, Dutchess down to 11th, Rochester Tech down to 13th, and Genesee down to 15th. In D1 women's basketball, Gulf Coast, their second week at number 1. Shelton State coming in at 8th, Eastern Florida State moving into the top 10 at 9th, McLennan making a little comeback, getting that 10th ranking this week, Odessa moving up to 12th, Trinity Valley falling to 13th, Southern Idaho gets a big bump to 16th, and Eastern Arizona falls far down to 18th. In D2 women's basketball, Johnson County still claiming that top spot. BCBC Essex falls to 7th, Harcum moves up to 6th, Lincoln Land jumping to 11th, and we have a new name to the rankings, Allen County coming in at 19th. And we'll wrap it up with D3 women's basketball this week. Rochester still number 1. There's only one change this week for the whole rankings in D3 basketball. Minnesota West and Anoka Ramby swapped places, with Minnesota West now taking that 3rd ranking. Like I said, a lot of changes across the rankings board this week, so we'll see what happens this weekend across all of the games and if we'll have another big change next week. All right, Zach is ready to go with this week's edition of Junior College Gems.
It was another thrilling week of junior college sports, and this week we got a pair of buzzer beaters in our first spring sport highlight. But once again, we start in Texas at the home of the Odessa Wranglers, where South Plains snuck out a tight win. Late in the game, Jabori McGee trying to make a play and gets the lob to Malik Ewan, who throws it down. The 6'10" sophomore calls for it and executes perfectly, one-handed, and the Texans would win over number 11 Odessa. On to softball. Florida Southwestern's Kamari Williams rockets this one over the right fielder, and just look at her run. She shows off the wheels, rounding third and scoring without a slide on the Bucks' first ever inside the park homer at that field. Lastly, have a night, Nate Rivera. You see the score in the top right, down by 3, and the freshman guard drains it to force overtime at Brookdale. Calm and collected release as he splashes it down to keep Northampton alive, but he wasn't done there. In overtime, down 3 again, and this time it's at the horn to silence the crowd. Bucket from the top of the arc, and the Spartans would force a second overtime against Brookdale, and Rivera saved the day once again. A pair of big-time baskets to end this week's JUCO Gems.
Keep sending us all of the top plays that you guys see. We want to feature the amazing things that the NJCAA student athletes do on a week-to-week basis. So at NJCAA Network.
Yeah, it's a really good spot to follow us, find out all the things that are going on, exclusives from some of the other shows on the network. And then with Winter Sports Championships coming up, you can see the selection shows for the brackets and reveals for all of that on our social media as well. So at NJCAA Network on Twitter and on Facebook. And that is all we got for you today on NJCAA All Access. So we'll be back here next Thursday, and we will see you then. Take care.